Welcome to The Next Biggest Winner. I'm George Cholis, host of the show that helps you find your next big winning stock. This is our third and final episode from Vancouver and the World Resource Investment Conference, but we've got three great companies for you today: Big North Graphite, Casigo Resources, and Forum Uranium. But before we get to those companies, I'm going to introduce you to the analyst that's going to put these companies to the test. Allan Barry is widely regarded as one of the best small-cap analysts in this country. He's been on BNN several times, and now you can find him at thestockvine.com. Join me in welcoming Allan Barry. Allan, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here, George. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's great having you. I think a lot of people at home want to hear what you have to say, given your track record, and I've actually seen that track record of success. You're saying that this market right now is a contrarian investor's dream. Why, and what do you mean by that?
Well, you know, right now, you ask the average investor, are you a contrarian? And all investors are going to tell you, oh yeah, I'm a contrarian. But then when you see a contrarian's market where there's nobody buying, there's all kinds of sellers, no one wants to buy them, then you ask those same people, are you a contrarian investor? All of a sudden, you can't find any contrarian investors, and that's because you have to look at things from a big picture perspective to have the confidence to get in there and buy while there's blood all over the streets, even if some of that blood's your own. And right now, that's what I'm seeing with the market. We've got the fundamentals that I'm seeing as far as supply and demand, which is what I'm always paying attention to, whether it's copper, gold, silver, uranium, diamonds. It's what do we have on the supply side and what do we have on the demand side? And I'm seeing the same kind of scenario now as I did in 2001, before the greatest bull market in commodities ever got underway. And we're seeing the exact same thing now. The supply chains of these commodities are shrinking. At the same time that they're shrinking, you've got strong demand coming from the emerging economies. And now the developed economies are starting to get rolling again, with the United States starting to roll. And yet you don't have the supply chain in shape to handle all of that demand. And so if you look at things fundamentally, then you can go out there and get more confidence. You also look at the valuations of companies right now. And I'm seeing some incredible things out there. I didn't think I'd ever see this again, where you've got a lot of stocks that are trading for below cash per share, or others that I follow one company called International Tower Hill Mines. They've got, you're paying $5 an ounce for gold in the ground on that company. At the peak of the market, you were paying $150 per ounce of gold in the ground. That's what I mean when I call it contrarian.
How much cheaper? How much cheaper? But everyone's fear, right? It's fear that's taken over.
Absolutely.
They're fearful. So how do you get people over that? Or is it just going to be a case of history always repeats itself, where most people say they're contrarians, but they don't jump in when there's blood in the streets? A few people do, and those are the people that make their fortunes? Is history just going to repeat itself?
Because it's been such a sustained period of, didn't just start last month. It's been going on since 2008, when the economic crisis happened. The juniors and the smaller mining companies really got started hammered then. And now they're down to these really low valuations. But what I see now is these stocks are so beaten down that anybody who's wanted to sell those stocks has sold those stocks. Now, if we get a bump up in the price of commodities, say gold goes from $1,350 up to $1,700 again, and we start seeing some buying pressure come in, it's just like the commodities, it's supply and demand. If all the holders of the supply of a stock are the shareholders, and they're all sold out, and they're pretty much, there's not many of them left. You get some new demand coming in, and these guys they've had a chance to sell at the 3-year lows. They're done selling. You get some new blood coming in and get a little excitement, and these things are going to gap up like you've never seen before.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here, which is, is this time different because we've got so many venture companies on the verge of just going bankrupt, that the danger is that maybe a company looks cheap, but there's a good chance of it going to zero?
Yeah.
And is that different this time, or am I making the mistake, the old adage, if it's never different this time, you just think it is?
Well, it comes down to your ability to filter things. And, you know, I kind of bucket list certain companies right now. I call companies with no money and no project, they're in the zombie camp. Then I've got another group of companies that, let's say they have a project, maybe they've got a little bit of money, but they've decided to pull back their horns. We're not going to spend anything on exploration. We're not going to try and get out there to these shows and these kind of things and tell our story. We're just going to pull in our horns. I call that my dormant bucket. I'm looking for the other bucket, which are the companies, and I think if investors are able to do that, I do my very best to bang the drum to try to educate people about how to look at these things intelligently. And in that bucket, you want to look for companies that have real projects and leadership. Their management has leadership and vision, and they're out there and they're working and they're trying to do their job that they're hired to by their shareholders, which is to put holes in the ground and try to find something and get that story out there to a bigger audience. It's those kind of companies. If you can filter them out and try to find those real stories, I think you're going to do very, very well.
Well, I'm also looking forward to hearing what you have to say about our 3 guest companies today, because you're going to be sitting on the round table, listening to what they have to say today, and then try and see what value you find in them and in your analytical mind, and can't wait for that.
Excellent. Look forward to it.
We'll be right back with Spiro Kletas on Big North Graphite. The next biggest winner is brought to you in part by